Here's my foster care thought of the day. So in the UK, foster carers can get paid like £2,000 a month. And if you're a foster carer who's watching this and you're thinking, well, I don't get paid £2,000, I'm not getting at you. This isn't like a personal video towards foster carers. This is a broader thing. I also know for a fact some of my foster carers were getting paid £500 a week. I'm not saying all foster carers in the UK get paid that much, but I know for a fact some were. What I don't understand though, so we pay people to look after other people's children when it's necessary. Having had personal experience in the social care system and now working in the social care system, I don't actually see much support with trying to reunite parents with their children. Like, that's the point of foster care, right? The majority of the time. Yes, there are some parents that should never be allowed near their children again. I think the minute you're physically abusive to a child or SA or anything like that, no, you shouldn't be allowed near that child again. But if you look at why children are in care, if you were to break it down into percentages, the highest percent of children that are in care is because of neglect. Neglect is the main reason. And then if you then break down neglect into percentages, the highest percentage would be that neglect is linked to poverty. So it blows my mind that we give foster carers up to £2,000 a month, £1,500 a month, whatever it is, when that could really help a parent, and that could be the thing that helps the parent be with the child. I'm not saying give parents a flipping £1,000 a month, because there's always other factors involved. Because even that poverty, even that neglect, that poverty could, like, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so like I haven't like planned what I'm actually going to say, I just know it's there in my mind. Some parents are literally neglectful of children because their own mental health is terrible. And that terrible mental health could be linked to something as deep as their own childhood, or something as simple as that they're poor. I see an NHS therapist at the moment. While I was waiting to see an NHS therapist, I started seeing a private therapist because I was on a long waiting list. My therapy costs £70 a week. That was $280 a month, right? I just worked that out on a calculator. Why aren't we helping parents with that? Because I know people say, oh, well, they do. I don't see it. I don't see the parents getting adult social care is terrible. And by that, I mean the support available. There is not a lot of support available. You have to meet crazy thresholds. I feel sorry for any adult going through mental health because the support is not the same. And the way you have to fight for support ruins your mental health even more. But anyway, and again, when I talk about this whole money thing, why are we giving money to foster carers, not the parents? What I think I really mean is, like I said, not giving parents money, but putting more money in resources that could help those parents better to help them keep their kids. For example, if a parent has a drug addiction, no, we can't just send them to rehab because that could be up to like 20 grand. I was looking it up. I looked it up online. It could be anywhere from 4 grand to 20 grand a month. But there must be something in the middle that doesn't involve referrals and waiting lists. Because in the meantime, the child's in care for a long time. And the longer the child is in care, not only is it damaging the parent, but it's also now damaging the child. People who have spent time in care, it's statistically proven that by the age of 24, only half of them will have a job. The other half won't. Now let's assume that half that don't have jobs are all on benefits. Because they have to be, how else will they survive? A quarter of people in prison right now have care experience. You're 3 times more likely to become pregnant by the age of 18 when you're in care. You're 5 times more likely to become pregnant by the age of 21 when you're in care. The reason I mention those statistics is I agree that children, when they need to be taken, should be, always temporarily. Family members and friends should be considered first. And more money needs to be put towards parents rather than foster carers. And yeah, in the short term, that's going to cost social services, that's going to cost the government a lot more money. Because I'm not saying that while parents are getting help, it's always best if the children are with them. So now you're paying foster carers and you're putting a lot of money into the parents. But the point I'm making when I gave you statistics to foster care children is, yes, in the short term, we might have to spend a lot more money. And when I say we, I don't mean me or you personally, although I'm happy if that's where my taxes go. But in the long term, you actually save money. Because if we can work harder, and I keep saying we when I know it's not us personally, but the people in these sectors, the people who have the power to do this, if we can work harder to keep parents with children, and if that means spending more money, in the long term, we actually save money. Because there'll be less messed up kids. I'm sorry, it's a fact that foster care messes kids up. There are kids in care who don't want to be there. And yes, a lot of kids are messed up when they go into care. But I think if you go, I went into care messed up. I became more messed up when I was in care and I'm not the only one, by spending more money in the short term, you'd save more money in the long term. Because if you have less messed up kids, those prison statistics would go down. You'd have more kids who have been able to stay in education, which means they're more likely to get a job, because that's another statistic. You're more likely to fail in school when you're in care. It's just a fact. It's not because children in care are stupid. A lot of them miss school. My education stopped when I was 14. You now have more people with jobs. You now have children and young adults with better mental health. So there could be less of a strain on these NHS services. And no, of course, I'm not talking about 100% of the time, because we know there are children who don't grow up in care who still have these issues. Is my point coming across? I'm going to post this, right? I'm going to post this, but if it doesn't make sense, I'll redo it. I'll delete it and redo it another time. It just... it baffles me. And I know we all say, oh, the government is stupid, they don't know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Everything I've just said out loud, you don't think they thought about. Spend more money in the short term supporting children to go back to their parents, and save money in the long term. You're telling me no one's thought about that? Of course they have. And I don't know, I reckon if you're a social worker watching this, it's probably definitely gone through your head. I'd be interested to know why it doesn't happen. And again, people can say, well, these services are offered. I work in social services, I don't see it. And yeah, it's totally different if you've got a parent who's refusing it. If you're offering a parent help and they're refusing it, that's a whole different matter, and that's on them. But again, when I was going through my worst mental health time, that was when I was declining therapy the most, because I was so down I couldn't even face a therapist. I don't know, I feel like this video went to shit. Did my point even come across? I hope it did. I'm not stupid, I just have ADHD. The whole time I was talking, I was thinking about cake. It's 5 a.m.